When I came to this country, I left college, I worked at a bank. And let's say, I worked there for about 3 years. And it was in Dog Hammarskjöld Plaza, not far from the UN. And the money wasn't in, the money was pittance. But a young man that worked at the United Nations came to me when he used to cash his check by me all the time. He said, Local 28, the Sheet Metal Workers Union, they have to hire minorities, black people. What happened? Oh, they lost the case, they lost the court case. What happened was this. The president of Local 28, the Sheet Metal Workers Union, about 10 years ago, had said in a public space, he says, the only way I'm going to hire Negroes, that's I'm using the right, Negroes, you understand what I'm saying here. The only way I'm going to hire Negroes is the only way Negroes are going to enter into the union is over my dead body. So the word got to the EEOC, the Equal Opportunity of the United States government, and they filed a case against Local 28 for equal opportunity for people like me. So it took about 10 years for the case to be adjudicated. Thank God the courts were working in the right way at that time. So what he said was, Local 28 has to hire 50% minorities or black people the very next class. So he said, well, go down to the Union Hall, which was on Broadway, at 56th Street, I think it was, and ask about it or whatever. That same day, I took my lunch and ran down to the place. When I got into the Union Hall, the guy said, "What, son? Today's the last day for application. What you're going to do is this. You write a letter to Mr. Looney. He was the head of the school, the apprentice school in Woodside. And then take it down, because you got to take it down there, because today's the last day. Don't put it in the mail. Take it down there, and you're going to, let's see, because today's he gave me the application. I filled it out. After work, I got down to Woodside, where the school was, the Sheet Metal School. When I got there, the gate was closed. It was like the gate next door here. It was just down there. So I was like, what am I going to do? But I got a piece of wood. I pried the gate open. But what he had told me, he said to write a letter to Mr. Looney. So I write the letter. I fluffed up my resume a little bit, saying that I made some inconsistencies. But it was because I write so much, the envelope was like this thick. So I had to pry the gate open and shove my application under the gate. I was fired from the bank like in October, but about Christmas Eve, the letter came from Local 28, right? They were accepted, because of the cases, they were accepted into the union. I was picked second. I was the second one picked into Local 28. When I started working, maybe in January or whatever. Now, I'm gonna tell y'all something. What everyone would ask me, did you take the test? I did not take a test. I didn't know anybody. I came out of nowhere. But see, the favor of God, God had answered the prayers of my grandmother. The favor of God is the best foundation. I came into this union and to show you how the favor works. The man that trained me, good guy, cool, very smooth, intelligent, very cerebral. I think the only cool guy I can see comparing to is our Deacon Henry. Just cool, just smooth, but very cerebral. He was an Eagle Scout. The Sheet Metal trade has a contest. He won it twice. This is the guy that trained me. How? I can't make this stuff up. I'm going to show you how this works. So years later, even after, well, what happened was, after a while, I moved up in position. I was his assistant, the supervisor. I was his assistant, and a lot of the white folks were a little nervous with me being in the position I was in. This was still back in like the early 90s. So they were telling him, the same guy that told me to lay me off, to fire me, get rid of that guy. He's getting too full of himself. But he said, no, that's my guy. He makes it work easy for me. So what they did was, they laid him off. And then they hired the other guy. It was on my birthday also, I remember it clearly. So I was mad, I'm like, you guys can't do this. Why? This guy's the best there is. You guys can't carry his toolbox. And they looked at me, and the next week, I was laid off. I'm gonna show you something. The guy that taught me was very skilled, like I said, right, very skilled in the trade and all that. But I went to work with another company for years. And that company was owned by also one of his students. My supervisor trained the guy that owned this company that was worth over $100 million. But my supervisor lived in the house that he grew up in, a tiny little house. Whereas the guy he taught lived in Saddle River, $5-6 million houses. It shows you the limits of talent and skill. There was the person, like I teach you something and you can ascend to so much more wealth. Here was this guy had so much more wealth than the one who taught him. Skill and talent applies for very little. What really matters is the favor of God. The best foundation we can have in any for success, for security, for protection is the favor of God. I'll tell you all the end to the story. But I went to work for the other company for a while. I was working there for a while. And of course, they thought I could do what I do, and then they moved me up. They put me to work with another guy, another bright guy. And he would ask me on many occasions, how did you get in? How did you get in? How come these guys, everybody seems to know who you are, and you work with Hutch, which was the name of the guy. You work with Hutch. You must know somebody, right? I don't know. I couldn't tell you the difference between the tools back then. But he would ask me this all the time, how did you? So what I would tell him, I said, man, listen, man, I was born to do this. God wanted, as my grandfather, he said, oh, don't give me that nonsense. How did you get it? But he kept wanting to know how, because he knew I could not have attained the position I was without having some connection. I was connected to God. My grandmother prayed for me, okay? And my grandmother was a believer. Right. She would, every day, that's how she prayed. But see, I'm looking at Solomon. I'm looking back on how this happened. I didn't realize this till after I started coming to church, how things work, how God answers prayers, how God listens to prayers. I understand better now. I'm looking back to the real, wow. So I'm working with this guy. His name is Roy. Another small. What happened is when we got into the trade, they started working on these computers that they call them laser cutters. They just put some numbers in and it runs around. So we started off learning how to use that. So me and the other apprentices really learned how to master the whole thing. So we said, how did you get in? So I told him, see, man, it was the last day of application, and I went in there and I lifted up the gate and I shoved my application. He said, that was you? Now, he was teaching, like I said, he was teaching a class in layout, but the gate was closed, the class in the afternoon, late in the afternoon. He said, I saw that envelope, man, I should have thrown it in the garbage. He said, he said, I put that thing back together, I put all your letters. He said, you wrote a lot there. You had a good handwriting. That was back then, though. And put it on Jack Looney's desk. So he saw it the first thing when he got in there. The best foundation for our security and our success is the favor of God. I couldn't believe when he started, I said, wow, look at how things, God made me see that to realize how he really operates. My grandmother's prayers were long before, she died back in 74 or whatever. But that's all she prayed about. She goes, I know you're going to school, I know you want to learn, but learn a trade. Your grandfather was a trade. He built that church. This was what she wanted. And every step I made in Sheepdown I was blessed. I didn't have resistance. There was, of course, there are people who tried, but I did not have that.